the Bucks, I mentioned the Rams, I mentioned the Cardinals. Do you see them competing with these teams?
Of course I do. And let me tell you why.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Dorm Debate Podcast. Week 5 is in the books. This season is going by so fast. It was a crazy week. There were, you know what? This just came to my head as I'm doing this intro. Caleb, your prediction last week, you said that someone was going to get fired.
Well,
oh my God, that just came to my head as I'm doing this intro.
Incredible.
Wow. I got to check my exact wording because I might have gotten the wrong head coach.
Oh, man. Yeah, you said someone was going to get fired, but you said it was going to be Urban Meyer. Who would have thought it would be Jon Gruden? Oh, my God.
Crazy.
So the news came out during Monday Night Football as the Ravens were playing the Colts that Jon Gruden resigned as head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders. I'm going to say Oakland. It was his 4th year in a 10-year contract. So the Raiders were all in on Jon Gruden. Now, Caleb's going to tell you a little bit more about the specifics as to why Jon Gruden decided to resign. And I do know that the special teams coordinator is replacing Gruden as the head coach. I don't know his name yet, but that's as far as I know. He's a special teams coordinator. But Caleb, go into kind of the specifics as far as why Jon Gruden resigned.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'm not an expert on it, but I've been kind of following the news. Today, we're recording this on Tuesday during Monday Night Football prime time. Out of nowhere, it seemed, Jon Gruden was announced that he had resigned from the Raiders. And this follows a weekend of news. I think it was a Washington WSJ report saying about how in 2011 there were reports that there were emails that he had used offensive language slurs, and he had apologized for that. But over the weekend there was more, and into Monday I'm sure there were additional information being released that maybe this kind of language went up until I believe it was about 2018. Slurs and allegedly against people who are gay or certain individuals in the league that he disagreed with. And this was during his time as a color analyst, which I believe is just an additional analyst for, he wasn't a coach during this time. It was out in his off, year. But some of these emails to the Washington football team, I believe president at the time, showed that some of this language was used, as well as some alleged other stuff involving pictures of cheerleaders or something. So which leads you to the question, there's a lot going on here, right? At first, got me interested. It was at first I thought, oh, it was just a one-off thing that he said in 2011. Part of me was not excusing it. It's he definitely maybe said something he shouldn't have. But I don't love when people get hunted by the mob for something they said 10 years ago. But then as you start to find out, it seems like this behavior went up. If it went up in 2018, that could probably start to bump shoulders with when he maybe started to have conversations or getting back into coaching, which makes you think that maybe it didn't change. I mean, you hate to say it, but I played football growing up, that some people, their language is just not politically correct. And he said he doesn't have a racist bone in his body, but when the language is that strong, it can offend a lot of people. And, it's one of those things that if that kind of tone, I wouldn't want to work for him. I think if that keeps going on, then yeah, I could see why the league and the organization you work for doesn't want you to work there anymore if that behavior continues. So if it was just a one-off thing and it was that simple, then I'd be kind of, maybe he changed, maybe this was, a poor judgment, but there seemed to be a pattern there, right? What gets you thinking about it is why was the emails even being looked at all? So I looked into it a little more. Again, I'm not an expert, but the Washington football team was under investigation because I'm looking at this report off of MSN, but the Washington football team was under investigation because the culture of there was allegations that the club female employees of the team experienced sexual harassment in 2020, and later claimed that the cheerleaders of the Washington football team had been secretly videotaped while getting undressed, and eventually reached a settlement. The team was fined 10 million, and the team owner Daniel Snyder stepped down while his wife Tanya took on his day-to-day responsibilities. That's a Sports Illustrated article from Joseph Salvador, to give credit where credit's due. So the NFL have been doing this investigation for the Washington football team, which we might have talked about in some podcast before. I mean, we're all NFC East, well, not Jared, but we have experience kind of knowing that team, and we've acknowledged that they've been a dysfunctional organization for a while. I mean, they've had bad luck, sure, but I think I might have mentioned that this happened allegedly. It's kind of it might be in line with that philosophy that they're not as well organized from an operation standpoint, especially if Jon Gruden's kind of being comfortable using that language to the head business guy in your team's office, which was the president at the time. So these emails were part of this. I think 650,000 emails were collected as part of this investigation into the Washington football team, and the investigation was finalized, and it found the culture of the club was very toxic and fell far short of the NFL's values. Basically, the lead investigator went through all the data and such, and determined that this is a very toxic bro culture. The allegations seem to be a large part coming from a source of truth, and that led to the fines and the alleged settlements and things like that, as well as the wife of Daniel Snyder taking over the day-to-day operations. Which, who knows what that looks like? Like, what's the punishment? What was that really a punishment? Is he not? You're gonna think he's not running the day-to-day to some degree. But I digress. So yeah, they were held to fire for that. Although what's interesting is that the NFL, this is according to the same article, did not request a written report of the investigation from the lead investigator, Beth Wilkinson, and instead listened to an oral report because the subject matter was sensitive. Basically saying that they didn't want it in writing, they just wanted to listen to a presentation about what had happened. Yet, if the culture of the club was very toxic and fell short of the values, I feel like you need a report on that than just listening to a PowerPoint. I mean, maybe I'm, going a little too broad in it, but that's allegedly what this article, and I saw that in other places too, that because it was sensitive, they listened to it instead. But why are we talking about this now? Right now, obviously, the Wall Street Journal, excuse me, Wall Street Journal. I'm mixing it up with the Washington Post. The Wall Street Journal released over the weekend that reports Jon Gruden's emails that shows the slurs, and they kind of more came out. And you would think, and this is as half an hour ago, so this could still be developing. You would think that the NFL might be leaking these strategically for whatever reason, but the NFL, as of literally 30 minutes ago, came out and said that we did not release any of the findings from the investigation. Again, seems like they listened to an oral report. They didn't want it in writing. And these emails were just, because it's such a confidential thing and sensitive topic, they weren't releasing it in broad. Now there's calls to release all the emails. But the point being that it seems like the potential that there might be someone with access to that information who leaked this to the Wall Street Journal, did that for who knows with regards to timing or whatever, but that there's an outside source out of the NFL that has access to this information and was showing it. So who knows what more they can find. But apparently this rabbit hole went a lot deeper than I thought. Again, this is broad strokes. I can't confirm 100% everything I've said, but just basing it off these articles and what I've been able to find through the day, because it's a day old. But I'm curious what you guys think in regards to whether Jon Gruden should have resigned. I mean, I'm probably thinking, I don't want to beat a guy when he's down, but if I'm Urban Meyer, I'm like, this is a distract. This is taking away some of the heat that was on me all week. Again, last week I said he would be off, but I was very surprised. It was during prime time. That's why I think this is even bigger conversation, because it was like a breaking news in the middle of a primetime game. But I think as more of the details, more of the facts came out, that it seems like Gruden just didn't want to deal with it, and it seemed like the problem was bigger than first alluded to. So I think, he should have. As to this other stuff with the Washington football team and why this was released now and who did it exactly, that's more up in the air. So I'm curious what you guys think.
Yeah, I mean, I would say a couple of things. I think that the fact that these emails spanned about 8 or 9 years. So it wasn't, a couple emails in 2011 and then they stopped as time went on. 2011 was a different time, and the fact that they were so consistent for 8 or 9 years, 7, 8, 9 years, shows that it's a consistent trait, a character trait of Jon Gruden. And I respect the Raiders owner for getting on that ASAP and meeting with him and saying it's not going to be tolerated around here, and you're gonna have to resign. They probably just forced him to resign. And then the second thing I just want to say is, what about some other coaches in this league? Like, they must be freaking out. They must be trying to delete 10 years worth of emails, trying to like hide themselves. Like, what other head coaches are they going to find in these, in these investigations?
I think even if you delete, like, try to go and delete it, I think the NFL already has a copy of it. Like, it's not, unless
like, how could you be so careless to like email back and forth?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. What do you
I
guys
don't know,
think?
but I agree with you in the sense that I think he was forced to resign. Either the owner came. I really didn't look up too many articles, so I don't know how it happened. But either the owner could have sat in on in the office and been like, yeah, that's not tolerated, or maybe it's structured in the contract somehow that if you violate some of our rules or whatever, then you're going to have to resign because we don't want to pay you, so we're not going to fire you. But as far as the Raiders moving forward, I think this is a perfect opportunity for their team, for Derek Carr, because Caleb, you always talked about Carr and Gruden butting heads, and you were saying, I don't know if Carr is going to last because Gruden has a 10-year contract, so I don't know if Carr is going to last. They don't seem like they love each other, but now Gruden's out, so I think it's a perfect time for Carr to be like, okay, my coach is out, like we've been butting heads a little bit, now I'm going to take control in the locker room and be a sense of like security for these players and this culture, bring everybody together and say that, okay, that was, although it was spanned 7, 8, 9 years, that was 3, 4 years ago, what the emails were like. We're a different team now. We're completely different. And he's not associated with us anymore. So it's a perfect opportunity for them to get together as a team and really, put the season. I don't think their season's over. They're still 3-2. So I think their morale is taking a hit this early in the week, but I think they're going to get it back together.
Yeah, it's a tough situation for Jon Gruden. Growing up, I remember him from that show. I forgot what the name of the show was, but he used to coach quarterbacks that were entering the league, if you remember that. So that was nice to see him on that. But yeah, so that's how I first saw Jon Gruden. So yeah, it's unfortunate. The things that were in those emails. But, I think Jerry Jones even mentioned today that, yes, people make mistakes and they have to be held accountable, but we shouldn't, forget the great things that he did for the league and that he's done in his career. Of course, people make mistakes and they have to be held accountable, and he resigned. So I respect him for resigning and accepting that he, made a mistake, but I still think he's had a great career in terms of, winning a Super Bowl and, helping a lot of young quarterbacks into the league. So,
yeah, not to pile on more to it, because I was kind of torn on it, because like, not like part of me was like, oh, what he said wasn't that. No, he said some messed up stuff, But there was news that apparently, I didn't even know this was a thing, but there's like a ring of honor that the Buccaneers, because he won a Super Bowl with the Bucs, right, in early 2000s or late 90s. And they have like a ring of honor for like the Hall of Fame, like the legacy guys. And the team basically said, I think as of today, they're taking it away. And it's wow. Yeah. And I'm like, well, I didn't even know that was a thing. So I'm not going to be like, oh, how dare they?
Yeah.
Like, it's just what I think the bigger conversation that is harder to have, and it's not for here, but it's just kind of throwing it out there for you guys and the audience, is like, it's like people are very complex. Jon Gruden was born in 1963. Like, I had some coaches older than that who their language was, might border on was disrespectful and things like that. Not my coaches, but the world's not as politically correct as Twitter might make it to seem, but how you were treated, and how the Raiders, I like to see what the team feels about their coach. Like, was he offensive to anyone on that team that didn't feel comfortable going into work? Or is it the light of these emails that people are saying, like, because he said this thing, we shouldn't be working with him anymore, when that's not really, people were coming out with the NFL has had a history of people, players with domestic violence, still being able to play, allegations against them still being able to play, other issues off the field still being able to play. So I feel like the harder conversation is like, yeah, what he said was wrong. But in terms of actually building progress, maybe this is a step towards it. But I think back to it's harder to talk about. It's the Rooney Rule, and the Rooney Rule says that you have to interview. I just looked it up because I remember the wording, but it came up when there was a lot of coaching turnover early this year, and this is from a USA Today article, but the Rooney Rule requires teams to interview multiple candidates of color for head coach and GM vacancies. And it's basically an attempt by the league office to try to get more diversity. Because if you think about it, most of the head coaches are white, and I believe in it. The best guy should get the job. But you came to see like people like Eric Bieniemy being passed over for Matt LaFleur. Nothing against those two, but LaFleur never called a play before. I'm not saying he's bad at it or whatever, but when the rule was started in 2003, there was 3 black coaches, and in 2021, there's still 3. So like it's easier to get mad at Jon Gruden when it's like, oh, he said this equal this plus that equals this, fired. When the reality is, why aren't we seeing more head coaches diversity in that thing? Why are people were saying Eric Bieniemy should be head coach somewhere? Why was he passed up? Is there something with him personally or whatever? So that's a harder conversation, as well as like, well, what do we do about players who have used those words in the past? Are they supposed to be cut from their contracts? It's it's a tough situation. I never want to root for anyone to lose their job. I know I didn't call for Urban Meyer. I just thought he would, but yeah, it's a complex thing. But I think, like Jonathan said, it's like you can't take away from the history, like taking away his ring from the Bucks. I just think people are complex. Like, yeah, he did this. He led the team. He's won a Super Bowl. He's got that legacy. You can't erase it for what was done, even as of yesterday. Like, that's still part of reality, So weird situation. If I'm the Raiders, I was thinking like, not that like this is a secondary thing, but in the back of my head, I'm like, this is probably like Derek Carr a little more. They did butt heads apparently. So if that's because even outside of this, he was known, I think his nickname was Chucky. Like he had a bit of a temper, like a tough, I don't know if I'm saying all this. I don't even think I'd want to play for him. I just don't like that kind of style. But that being said, I think the Raiders still have a good team around them. I think it'll just come down to, can they come together around another coach, maybe an interim coach? Because there's a lot of other coaches who can come in. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. And lastly, like the only active gay NFL player plays for the Raiders.
Is it Carl or something?
Carl Nassib from Penn
Oh
State.
yeah, that's interesting.
I'm very interested to see if he'll come out in a press conference or something and say, his relationship with Gruden.
Yeah, was it tense or was it like?
Because I did see on a First Take or one of the shows, Keyshawn Johnson, a wide receiver. He was the wide receiver for the Buccaneers when they won the Super Bowl. And he said that Gruden had that type of vibe. Like he could see through what Gruden was. Like he wasn't, he was a abrasive guy, but he said there was something, weird about him and I could see through it. And he mentioned that after that Super Bowl year, the owner left mid-season in the next year. He left and went somewhere else to be an owner. And that leaves the question of why would you leave a Super Bowl team? And they, speculate now is that he couldn't deal with Gruden. He was just such an abrasive guy and very loud and demanding guy that, and maybe other things, homophobic and all this other stuff, that he's like, I can't work with this guy, but, why don't you fire him? But, that there's a lot that needs to come out first. So this may not be the last time we talk about Gruden, but it is so fresh. It happened yesterday for us since we're filming on Tuesday. So it is still very new. As Caleb, you said, stuff's still coming out.
Yeah. So I don't want to make any no definitive statements.
Yeah, we don't want to say
all
anything,
alleged.
So.
It's all speculation.
But yeah, we just kind of wanted to report on it and get everyone's thoughts on it. But let's turn to maybe not a lighter note, but the New York Giants.
More somber. Gosh. Well, I don't know.
Man, I titled this Big Blues because they say go Big Blue, go Big Blues. the Giants suffered their worst loss under Joe Judge against the Cowboys, 44-20. Now, the injury list was about as long as you could make it. I can't even name everyone. Daniel Jones out with a concussion, I think in the second half. Saquon Barkley steps on someone else's foot, looks like a ankle sprain. He's out for the game. Kenny Galladay, he goes out for the game. The only guy left, Kadarius Toney, has his freaking performance of the year, 10 receptions, 189 yards, and 1 missed punch. And he actually gets ejected for that. And to add insult to injury, now he's questionable with his ankle now. You can't write this stuff with the New York Giants. I mean, year after year, it's like, Daniel Jones has turnover problems. Saquon Barkley out for the year. Oh, now you have a full healthy lineup. Barkley has his best game of the season against the Saints. You get your first win. Very next game, tragedy strikes. He's out for probably 2-3 games. I just feel bad at this point. I feel bad for the Giants because they just can't get anything going. And Daniel Jones, for the first time in a while, has had a consistent no turnover games. He's had consistent touchdowns, great passing yards. He's looked the best that he ever has, and concussion. It just sucks. John, you're a Giants fan, so you can talk a lot more about it. But I've definitely developed a huge love for the Giants in the past couple of years, and I've wanted Daniel Jones to work out so bad. And it just feels like every time he gets something going, it's like one step forward, 2 steps back. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think obviously injuries are unlucky. If you look at our receiving core, it's pretty good. I mean, we got Galladay, and if you guys listen to the podcast, or you guys probably remember me talking about Galladay when we traded for him, but I wasn't happy. No disrespect to Galladay. I think he's a great player, but I said he's going to get injured. And I'm like, if you draft Devonta Smith, he's younger and you could pay him less, and because he's on the rookie deal and he doesn't really get injured. And Galladay has always been injured throughout his career. Last year, when he was on the Lions, he missed basically every game. I think he only played in like 3 games. And when he plays, he's good. And we've seen that with the Giants. But he doesn't really play that much. So I thought he was going to get hurt, and it turns out he does. Ingram can't stay on the field long enough for them to make any plays for him. Slayton is usually healthy, but now he's hurt. Shepard's always on and off the field. And then you got Toney, who's actually probably our best receiver right now when he's because the other guys are injured. So it is a little bit unlucky, but like I said 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago when we said who's the best 0-2 team, I didn't pick the Giants because I don't think even if we didn't have any injuries, it's just like the decisions we're making and how the games are going. It's just like we just can't get anything. We can't like figure out how to score points and stop the other team. Like we just had a good game against the Saints, but like if you're talking about salvaging the season, I don't really think we really don't have a chance to make the playoffs because we play the Rams this week, we play the Chiefs at one point, and we play the Bucks at one point. That's 3 losses right there. We're already 1-4. That's 1-7 right there. So we're not going to win the next 8 games to go.
Not a lot of hope there for you. Don't feel.
Yeah, so like I just think the season's over. You might as well not tank, but just make sure everybody's healthy before they come back.
Yeah, a lot of games that Giants have played this year have been pretty close, except the Cowboys. And you can't blame the Giants. The Cowboys are a Super Bowl team. Okay, let's just throw it out there.
You'll get your segment. Hang on. We're talking about the Giants, all right?
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, I agree with what John was saying. I mean, it's a tough situation. There's a lot of injuries. I would focus on, I mean, again, I don't like to use the word tank, but, think for the future. Think about what you could do next year once you have all the pieces back, all the injuries gone. But yeah, it's just an unfortunate situation.
Yeah, I feel like I'm an Eagles fan, but I feel like the Giants, you either win a Super Bowl with Eli Manning or it's an off year. There's no in between. No, it's like I would think, what's the problem? Like, and I'm curious, John, what you think, because if I could point out, like, just off a Google search and just eyeballing it. I mean, not a problem is Daniel Jones. I think he's getting better and better. it is the worst loss under Joe Judge, but as Daniel Jones get better, is changing head coaches the best position for that? I mean, I saw some reports saying that big problem is not getting past pressure on the quarterbacks. I think this article I'm looking at from G-Man HQ says the Giants didn't hit or get a sack on Winston once all game. And
wow,
in this league, you got to get, I mean, they're protecting quarterbacks more than ever, and it's more offensive pass heavy more than ever. You got to get pressure on the quarterback to stop, or at least cover the edges to stop these dual threat running quarterbacks, or to, throw them off their games, the elite ones that like stay in the pocket. You need that more than ever in this game. And I don't know. I feel like Daniel Jones and the head coach and even the receiving core, like durability issues, like part of that's you get the guy, like if Kenny Golladay is a good player but has a history of this, then that's tough. Maybe you do look at getting a rookie next year and that, getting Daniel Jones the weapons as he gets better. But it seems like more of the problems are on defense. I don't know if switching head coaches is the right thing right now.
Yeah, I think the head coach is good. I like Joe Judge, but on that same note, like I think get Daniel Jones back, and I would say don't tank. Like try as hard as you can to win games, because I think Daniel Jones is the guy of the future, but we still don't know. What if he goes? You can't just be like, all right, let's tank, and then okay, whatever Daniel Jones does, we'll like forgive him because we're trying to tank. No, let's try to win and see if he can win games. Like let's say he comes back healthy. Is he going to have a winning record the rest of the season or not? Like from here on out. So we need to figure out if this is the guy. And if it is, okay, then let's draft defense. But
so still up in the air, you think, as whether he's the guy. Like,
yeah, it's still
you're
up
not
in
convinced
the air.
yet for you.
Yeah, I'm not convinced.
Okay.
And it's so tough because the year that he had all those turnovers last year, he didn't have Barkley. So maybe he's trying to do too much in each of those games, and you're taking too many chances, and inherently just gets an interception. But he finally corrected it, and he looked the best that he's ever have. With this concussion, I don't know, John, have you heard how long he's going to be out? It's probably just day to day.
Yeah, they don't know. As of Tuesday today, they don't know. And he's in the concussion protocol, and anybody who knows sports knows that concussions are something that there's no way to predict. Like the guy could return on Sunday, or he could be out for 2 or 3 weeks. Like we have no idea.
Yeah, terrible.
The only good thing is they weren't going to Tony, and now they don't really have a choice but to go to Tony.
Right.
So if his ankle injury is okay and he starts the rest of these games, he's going to get a lot of playing time, a lot of catches, and he'll just develop. The routes that he had, I saw one against Trevon Diggs. I mean,
that one was sick.
Oh my gosh, left him in the dust. So yeah. He has elite route running, receiving talent. And they just were keeping him on the bench. So maybe these injuries could give Tony some playing time, and maybe you could find a superstar in Tony. Right. Let's flip to the other side. Jonathan's Dallas Cowboys sitting at the top of the NFC East, and they're actually sitting at top of the NFC. They got the Rams, Bucks, Cardinals. Those are the teams that are around them. And my question is, after this huge win against the Giants, the whole knock with the Cowboys the last couple of years was defense. And Trevon Diggs,
he's saving them.
Oh my gosh. With just Trevon Diggs alone, he is carrying this team. He's got more interceptions than some NFL teams combined. So
yeah, he does.
How many he's got 6 in 5 games.
Yeah.
Some say he's overrated. I saw a couple of
Who the heck said that?
A couple of TikToks were like, oh, he lets up a lot of passing yards. He's on track to let up the most passing yards in NFL history.
Because he covers DJ Moore and he covers the best guys on the other team. So
that's not fair.
If you have a receiver that has an interception a game, but he gives up 50 yards or 60 yards, I don't care.
I want him on my team.
Yeah, I want him. It's a guaranteed interception, and he hasn't let up a touchdown all year.
Yeah, what the people making those TikToks don't realize is that obviously other teams haven't really watched tape enough or don't trust him that he's going to be good enough. But it's going to get to the point where quarterbacks are going to be like, I guarantee Belichick is telling Mac Jones this week. He's saying, wherever Diggs is, don't look that way. Don't even
Do
look
not.
over there. I don't care if our best receiver's there and he's open by 50 yards. Don't throw it.
Don't do it.
John and I were texting, and I'm like, it's very simple. Just don't throw his way.
Yeah.
And like the next play, Glennon takes like a 50-yard bomb to Trayvon Diggs. It's like,
Bro,
it is-
our eighth string receiver is taking a deep shot, and there's 3 Cowboys on him, and it's one of them's Trayvon Diggs. Like, how dumb can you be?
So the question I'm going to pose to Jonathan first. You're the Cowboys fan. Look, I mentioned the Bucks, I mentioned the Rams, I mentioned the Cardinals. These are the teams that you're around right now at 4-1. Do you see them realistically competing with these teams?
Of course I do. And let me tell you why. I've yet to see a team this year that can stop the Cowboys offense. Like I've said, the offense is just really unstoppable right now. All those receivers can catch, they can get open. That's good. Our offensive coordinator, Kellen Moore, he's strategically calling plays every single week. Every week is different. They use the tight end some weeks a little bit more. Other weeks, they lean more towards Cooper or something. Or some weeks they just lean on the run. We have 2 really great running backs right now, Tony Pollard and Zeke. And so there's just so many pieces. You have Dak using his legs. The offense is just unstoppable. I haven't seen anybody stop it this year. We've played the Bucks this year already. It was a pretty close game. We could have won if our kicker made the field goals, but he didn't, unfortunately. But yeah, I mean, in terms of the Rams, that's a different team. They have Aaron Donald on there. So I'm sure the pass rush is, it could change things a little bit. But I still think this offense is unstoppable. In terms of the defense, I mean, we've improved since last year. Diggs is making all these interceptions. But it can be better. Like, they're able to get scored on, right? But, it was a pretty close game with the Giants until the injuries, came on. So I think our defense can improve. But yeah, I think this team can definitely compete against the Rams, the Bucks, the Cardinals. The Cardinals, they're undefeated, but, I don't know if their schedule has been that tough so far. Kyler Murray is great, but I don't know if they've really faced a tough opponent.
They beat the Rams by 17.
Yeah, I mean, they're divisional rivals. I mean, they always meet each other. But I mean, I want to see them play the Bucks or another great NFC.
They play. So out of those teams, Bucks, Rams, Cardinals, you guys played the Bucks already. You don't play the Rams this season, but you play the Cardinals January 2nd, your second to last game. Ooh. And it could possibly be like a meaningless game if you guys both make the playoffs and you just sit your starters, which kind of sucks. But like, that's the only team that you'll face. You face the Chiefs. Like,
it's Chiefs and Cardinals are the best 2 teams they're going to face.
Yeah, everything else is in the division.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, that's another subject. The Chiefs, aren't one of the best teams right now. I don't think they're struggling. But yeah, in terms of the Cardinals, though, there was one game I'm trying to find it. Yeah, it was the Vikings, right? They basically should have lost that one. So they're undefeated. That's what the paper says. But honestly, that could have went the Vikings' way.
And they were losing at halftime to the Jaguars.
Exactly. Their defense isn't that great. So going against the Cowboys offense,
they struggled this week against the 49ers too.
Yeah. So I mean, it's great. They're undefeated. They're winning games, but it could easily flip the other way. And so I'm not nervous about the Cardinals for sure. And you said we play another tough team this year?
The Chiefs.
The Chiefs? Yeah, I don't consider them tough right now.
Well, by the time you play them, they're going to be back to their normal self.
Hope so, because I miss that old Patrick Mahomes.
You want the challenge. It'll make your Cowboys better.
I want the challenge. That would be interesting. But yeah, I'm not concerned about them. They play another good team. The Giants, they play again.
in MetLife.
At home.
Oh yeah. Hey, if Barkley and Daniel Jones are back,
and Shepard and Slayton and Galladay and Tony are all back, then
it could be tough.
Maybe we can compete.
That should be enough time for them to rest up and come
back. They better for.
I'm getting a Galladay jersey, all right? They ran out in the NFL store.
Yeah, I think if your question is it time to put the Cowboys up in the top of the NFC? The answer is yes. And the reason is because the last few games, they've been running the ball really well. They have Zeke and Pollard at running back. And honestly, a lot of people probably like, oh, we want, if they have Dak in fantasy, they're like, oh, Dak's having a bad fantasy year. I mean, Gallup is out, and then they decide to run the ball. They're running the ball like 15, 20 times with Zeke, and then like 10 to 15 times with Pollard. It's like 30, 35 times a game. So, I mean, if their defense is obviously better than last year with Diggs and then, a bunch of other guys, Micah Parsons. But I think that the offense is obviously very hard to stop, like Jonathan said, and the defense is even better than last year. So, yeah, they're going to go far in the NFC.
Yeah, I hate to say it. They do deserve to be at the top, around the top. I'm not saying the best in the NFC, but they've proven to be up there.
This really hurts, Caleb, to say.
I'll never say it again. No, I'm kidding. No, yeah, I think just bouncing off, not going to add much more, but they've always, past few years, they've had a flashy offense, especially with once they got Cooper was when I think that offense really started to click.
Mm-hmm.
I think the difference this year and why they should be closer to the top is because the defense is showing up. They might be young players and some of them, but Diggs, Parsons, I mean, I know they let go Smith, but that's because of the depth and he wasn't getting much playing time because how good the other guys are. So I think the defense is finally there. That gives that stability for them to run the ball. A team that runs the ball and can kill you throwing, like Dak, has proven to be very efficient, very durable as a quarterback. And he's the kind of leader that, like, I know he hasn't won a Super Bowl, but he seems like a lot of other quarterback positions in the NFC are either new or you're like, is he the guy still? Dak's been there and he's got the contract. So that's almost like you can attract talent with that at this point. And he's proven that he might not be the flashiest quarterback, but he can still get those passes, be very efficient on third down. And so they have the pieces there to sadly do well.
Yeah, the one difference that I see from the Cowboys, besides the defense, like we were talking about, Zeke looks like Zeke. He's finally eating again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Back-to-back 100-yard rushing games. He finally looks like himself. Last year, he looked weird, especially because I think that was the year that he went and trained in like the Bahamas or something, and he had that contract dispute. I think it was last year, the year before that.
Yeah, he started to fall off. And the start of this season, he was still cooking, right? Like he wasn't that. Yeah.
Now he has somebody else to, sort of push him because he knows that if he doesn't do well, Tony Pollard's going to take a spot because he's doing really well.
Pollard's been good.
Yeah, and I like Pollard a lot. It's a different dynamic than Zeke. Zeke's more of a north-south back, and Pollard's kind of catch the ball in the backfield, kind of quick juke move type running back. And that adds to the already lethal offense. Like you didn't even need Zeke to be good, and now it's just OP. So yeah, and none of the offenses in the NFC East could compete with the Cowboys. And now you're starting to look at the Cowboys with, the Cardinals offense and, the Rams offense. But obviously, when you look at the Bucks, they're a little bit different. They don't really have a run game, and the Rams kind of don't have a run game either. And the Cardinals are iffy. So the one kind of X factor that the Cowboys have is they can beat you on the ground. They can beat you in the air. The Cardinals, Rams, and Bucks have shown that they've struggled rushing the ball. So that's one thing you can hang your hat on as well.
So Eckler's a beast, though.
Eckler?
Yeah.
For the Chargers?
Yeah.
What about him?
He's not in the NFC.
Are you thinking because Jonathan has Eckler and he went
I'm mixed up.
We're not evaluating Jonathan's fantasy team, but we could.
If we're talking about Jonathan's fantasy team, he's place.
I just realized how out of context. Like,
I mean,
Jonathan, you have any other player. No,
you have
I got
Mike
2 hours
Williams.
of sleep. All those posts I did today, I made them at 2 a.m. today.
I'm like, I guess Eckler's a good back. Yeah.
I mean, I was thinking blue, and then I guess it went. Okay, I don't. You don't have to keep that in.
Yeah, that's funny. I'm keeping that in.
All right.
That's a good way to. That's a good way to end it off. Our next topic, another great game from the Week 5 matchups: Packers versus Bengals in Cincinnati. I was obviously rooting for the Bengals for that one for our boy Chris Evans, and unfortunately, oh my God, with all the kicks, all the missed field goals, the Packers end up coming out with the win, 25-22. Mason Crosby finally got it together, kicked one through the uprights, won the game in overtime. Now, let me just tell you the scenario right now. I believe it was Mason Crosby missed. Then they go into overtime. Then the Bengals guy misses, or the Mason Crosby misses. But I think there was 4 total missed kicks in the last 6 minutes of the game.
Yeah, I think
fourth quarter, right?
I think it was actually 5.
I think it was 5, including 1 or 2 in the fourth, I think.
Yeah.
And the Bengals one hit off the flag of the upright, and they started celebrating early, which I thought was hilarious. So he jumps into the field goal holder's arms, and he's cheering, and then they look back, and
that guy throws him off.
Get off, you idiot! You missed it.
But how precise do you have to be to hit the flag on it? That's a moving flag in the wind, and he hits that, but doesn't get it between the.
Was he what? But was he not watching? What did he thought it went in?
So it's hard to see that thing though.
There's audio of him and Mason Crosby meeting after the game, and Crosby was saying he's the McPherson Bengals kicker was we thought it went in. I jumped in this guy's arms. I thought it was in. And he's yeah, he's a lot of the kicks today, he's they were all going left, in the tail end, they were just going left. So Crosby noticed it too. That's why he kept missing. But there was something to where the kicks looked straight on, and then just at the last second, just kind of drew left. So something was weird with the wind in Cincinnati that day.
Yeah.
Just one of those rare times. But the question at hand, it could be for the Packers and for the Bengals, but what does this game say more about, the Packers or the Bengals? We're all kind of, I would assume we're pretty high on the Bengals. They have Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow, a lot of receiving weapons. Their defense is starting to catch up with them. Trey Hendrickson having a good year. John, I guess I'll start with you. Did you think that this was a good win for the Packers, or was this kind of a moral victory for the Bengals to say, hey, we're we're almost there. We're definitely not the Bengals of old.
Yeah, I agree with the latter. I think the Bengals, obviously, now they were 3-1 coming in. Now they're 3-2. They're legit. They're tied, or no, now they're second in the NFC or the AFC North, which they're competing with the Ravens. That's going to be a great game. Them and the Ravens play twice, so it's going to be interesting to see that. But this just tells me that, wow, okay, the Bengals can now compete atop of the top teams in the league. And while the Packers secondary was hurting with Jair Alexander out, and I think a couple other guys out, Jamar Chase got that 70-yard touchdown. But I think even then, Burrow is playing super well. They got Mixon. He was a little banged up, but they still, he still got a touchdown. So I think it just says a lot that the Bengals are able to compete with these teams now, even with the missed kicks. They're not the Bengals of old. Like you said, they're starting to gain their stride. And I think next season is definitely a season that they could win the division. Even this season, they could. I don't know if it'll happen, but next season, definitely, they're definitely trending upward with all these young players.
I agree with John. The Bengals are trending upwards, major improvements. But I would say, what I saw, the Packers, they're a really great team. But it's great to have Davante Adams on your fantasy team, because it seems like Aaron Rodgers, he's just trying to find a way to give Davante Adams the ball almost every play. That's why he threw that interception. There's two guys on him, and he threw that interception. So if you have a really good corner like the Rams, I think the Packers aren't going to go too far in the playoffs, because Jalen Ramsey can just shut down Davante Adams, and Aaron Rodgers is gonna choke, I think. And so I mean, like Aaron Rodgers is a great player, but this year, I don't know. I have Devontae Adams on my team, so I noticed that he targets him so much. It's kind of too much. I don't know. It's kind of weird.
Wait, so you do not want him to target him, or do you?
No, I'm just saying if the team wants to really compete against the top dogs in the NFC, like the Rams, especially, I'm talking about Jalen Ramsey, then they need to find other key players on offense besides Devontae Adams.
Yeah.
Aaron Jones, he needs to play a little bit better. We know what he can do from the past, but like this year, I don't think I've seen a spark in him. But yeah, they need other receivers to step up rather than just relying on Devontae Adams, because once he's gone, then they're in trouble, I think.
And Aaron Rodgers told them to bring on Randall Cobb, and he's had an okay season, but obviously he's not going to carry the workload for a whole game. He's kind of like a slot guy. So then the next guy would be probably Tanyan at tight end. People thought he was going to have a huge year, kind of a flat line, kind of plateaued this year. So yeah, the offense is a little weird. It's like you said, it's Devontae Adams heavy, and you put Ramsey on him, disappears. So
it's over.
Yeah. Caleb, what are your thoughts? You're a big Aaron Rodgers fan, and we've been kind of critical of him recently, but look, they're 4-1. So
yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, any team wins a win, so they got away with the win. I'm not going to add much more. I mean, I've said so much about how Aaron Rodgers is a lot of fun to watch, and it's crazy how many times he gets to these overtime last second games, and despite all odds, somehow still gets on top. It's just such an intangible thing that it's so much fun to watch when he's playing, and obviously it's a team effort. Takeaways that are a little different from your guys's is, in general, I think when they shrunk the field goal, the sizes of the posts, and there've been much more. I mean, John, you mentioned at the beginning of the year, there was a ton of missed field goals overall in the NFL this weekend. That I think it's made for much more exciting football, where the extra point and the field goal is not guaranteed. Mm-hmm. Teams have to be much more aggressive. There was a time, I mean, adding to the Bengals, a bit of both too. The Bengals for my whole childhood were not really good. They weren't really contenders. So it's crazy that you add Burrow once and you start to finally think like they're a good team, and they're on the ups. They got to protect him. I mean, he had a throat contusion, sent him to the hospital after a nasty hit, so he cannot be getting hit that much. The Bengals O-line wasn't
Burrow.
Burrow, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Really? Oh.
Yeah, and I mentioned this when they drafted him, that if that organization was bad for so long because of business issues. But I think that the offensive line was starting to click, starting to get more help, and the receiving helps there with Jamar Chase. But they got to protect the crown jewel, which is Burrow. I think he's having a breakout season, but he can't be taking these hits. Coming off an injury from last year, they're starting to click. They're definitely on the ups. But like I was saying, the missed field goals and the missed extra points are making for some exciting football. You saw it in the Ravens game, the Rodrigo Blankenship missing the field goals, giving the Ravens a chance. Like, I like in a bigger picture that it rewards and punishes much more than in the past. Like in the past, the Bengals are bad, now they're good. Now in the past, those field goals from 30 yards out were easy. Now there's a bit of tension. You watch it and it's like, could there be not just a deflection, but could it be missed? And obviously, if you're kicker in the league, you don't like it. But I think it makes for much more exciting football. And they mentioned that during the I think the Monday game, that we're off of week 5, entering week 6. Every week of NFL play this season, there's been an overtime game. So I think that might play a factor into is the field goal thing. So I know we're talking about the Packers Bengals, but I think Crosby still got the clutch factor, even if he didn't get it the one time, he still made it when it counts. So it's like, even then with the Bengals kicker, I mean, this is just they both played really well. I still think the Packers need some help on defense, and I agree with Jonathan that they got to diversify the football. I mean, when was the last time that Rodgers had a really good tight end? Like, I mean, Tunyon's good, but like I think his receivers have always been the stars, Whereas you think of if he had a Gronk, like a star tight end, maybe that offense would really start to click with Aaron Jones as a running and receiving back. But they still need to be able to shut down on defense. And the fact that the Packers games are getting that close, it's, you do have Aaron Rodgers, so you can win those games, but you got to have a defense. I've said this for years, that they got to have a really good defense to give Rodgers a little room for error. Everyone's human, So I think if I'm the Packers or Bengals, I'm feeling good. But obviously, if I'm a Packers fan, you're happy to get the win.
Yeah, and this is actually the second time that they've won on a field goal. They had to drive down the field against the 49ers.
Right.
Won by
Right.
just field goal. So they're scraping by, and a win is a win. But, you're the Packers and you should
Winter is coming.
Yeah, winter's coming. Let's start with, we're going from the top of the division all the way down to the bottom of the league. If there's any Jacksonville Jaguars and Detroit Lions fans still out there, we're going to talk about you. So the only question I have about these teams is who is going to win first? Who is going to get that first win? The Lions have been so close. They lost this week on a last-second field goal by the Vikings. They lost on a last-second field goal to the Ravens. It seems like they're so close, and they can't pull out a win. And then the Jaguars lost this week 37-19 to the Titans. The Titans haven't really looked that good, so they didn't really compete with them. Simple question. Who is going to get a win first, Jags or Lions, John?
The Jaguars are going to win this week in London.
Against the Dolphins.
Against the Dolphins, yeah.
Countries makes a difference.
I think so. They have the most experience of any other NFL team in London. They've played 7 games there. So they've played a home game in London each of the past 6 seasons. So I think they have, pretty good experience going there. Maybe a lot of the players have changed over the last couple years, but I think they have experience going there. And with the Dolphins just losing to the Bucs and Brissett starting at quarterback, I think this is a perfect opportunity. And I think the Jaguars are going to get it done because the way to exploit the Dolphins defense, we saw Brady put up 5 touchdowns, but obviously the run game has been tough for the Dolphins to stop. So with James Robinson in the backfield, I think he's going to have a great game. And then you still got Marvin Jones on the outside. So I think Trevor Lawrence gets his first win in the NFL on Sunday in London. It's not even going to be in the U.S.
Jonathan?
I would have to respectfully disagree. I get all that you said, John, but at the end of the day, it starts at the top. Who wants it more? You're telling me a coach that, went to a club with or goes to clubs with a bunch of young girls and dances and has fun after the team loses, wants it more than a coach that was crying in a press conference?
No, that was
a few days ago.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think the Lions are going to get their first win first, and I think
against the Bengals.
Yeah, the Bengals are a good team, but it's definitely possible to beat them. I think the Lions have always been close this year. They've always been so close. They have a great offense. It's decent. They just haven't been able to cross the finish line. It's tough. It's annoying. That's why the coach is crying. They're better than the record shows, and everybody knows it. And so, I think this week is when they finally pass that hump and get a win. And a lot of people are giving Jared Goff crap. I think he's been doing decent this season. Again, I think he's been doing decent. The offense is doing great. I just think they have to close out games. And I think surely now they have that bitter taste in the mouth. They've lost a lot of games. I think they're gonna try to actually put games away early rather than waiting till the last second, depending on a field goal or hoping that something goes well for them. I think they're gonna beat the Bengals this week. I think it's simply because they want it more, not because of any X's and O's. I think simply the team just wants it more. Urban Meyer didn't care. He's going to go to Ohio State next week and probably party with some young girls or something. He didn't care.
Oh, jeez.
I agree with the fact that the team wants it more. I saw Dan Campbell's press conference, so I think that does help the team. I think that motivates them, and their defense did play well this week against the Vikings, but their first-round pick, Penei Sewell, didn't play this week, and he might not play this upcoming week. They already had another offensive lineman out. I think both their tackles are out. Their center actually just got season-ending injury this past week. Their starting wide receiver, Quintez Cephas, just had a season-ending injury this week as well.
Did he really?
So that's 2 guys this week on their offense, season-ending injuries. Hawkinson is limited in practice all week. So is Swift and Jamal Williams. I don't see how they put up 20 points against the Bengals, and the Bengals are probably going to score more than 20, but we'll see.
Tough.
Yeah, I'll add. like morally, I like the Lions more. Like, okay, this week's
I'm not a cheating man, so we're gonna go with the Lions.
well, more just when you see a coach that I like to think, at least like personally, you don't to see that emotion from your coach makes you want to play more. And if you listen to what uh, the coach of the Lions said, that it wasn't more his own feeling, but it was like these men that I lead are so much better than the record shows, and they just haven't gotten to that point yet. So I think like if you're looking at the better team between the Jags and the Lions, I think the Lions are the better team, and it's been a while since anyone's been ever able to say that, you know. So they're it's taking time, but it's getting there, and I think they will. And that motivates you as a player. That's like, man, my coach believes me. He's willing to put his heart on the line. You know that says like that's a guy you want to play for. So if you're looking at the whole team, I think the Lions are the better team. For this week's matchup, I would say that the Jags have the better matchup with Miami, but I fear that the dysfunction with the Jags might continue. They're already compounding their losing streak. I think at least for the franchise record. I don't know if it's the NFL record that going back into last season how many games they've lost, but I feel like that off-field trouble. If they don't win in Miami, that's a bye week after that, and then will it get better? I think there still seems to be some dysfunction there. Like Jonathan mentioned, like just some of the off-field stuff, and so I think that's not a problem with the Lions. If you look at the whole Lions team, like will they win first? I would still say yes, and I'd if they don't even, I'd still say that there's a chance that they will get more wins than the Jags this season.
I'm going with the Lions. Go blue. Urban Meyer is trash, and I hope he never wins another game. I hope he gets fired. I hope he has migraines for the rest of his entire life.
Okay, okay, that's
all right.
That's ours.
Oh jeez.
All right, week 6 prediction. We're gonna do these a little bit differently.
Skip over that. Yeah, right. Week 6. Yeah.
Week 6. On to the next week. We're gonna do this a little different. We're just gonna do one game because it's the best game out of the week. Ravens versus Chargers. Ravens, an amazing. You would have never thought they would have come out with the win. If you turned it off and you woke up Monday or Tuesday morning and you saw the Ravens won, you would have thought you were in a dream because they were down 22-3 going into the fourth quarter, and Lamar Jackson pulls a rabbit out of his hat and just freaking goes AWOL and freaking. Oh wait, that's not the right term.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
AWOL.
Well,
either way, I had him on my bench, and I'm a little pissed off, but it was a great game. I was very entertained.
You would have beat me.
I actually had Mark Andrews as well, and he was also on my bench. So really just kind of sucked all around. But at least it was good entertainment for Monday night. And I was just in shock that Lamar could throw for that many yards and that many completions and only have 6 incompletions. The fact that people still say that he can't throw, I think that should be thrown out the window because he can throw the dang ball and he's a winner. Out of that draft class that he was in, he is the best, most accomplished winner, quarterback, whatever you could say. Like I love it. I love the Ravens underdog mentality. I love that they all play together as a team. It's not like one player's doing everything. It's just great to see. And I feel bad that I said last week that the Ravens couldn't compete or wouldn't make the playoffs because I hope and I'm rooting for them the rest of the way out after that performance. To just not quit after being down that much in the fourth quarter. I love it. I love it so much. And then on the Chargers, they just had a great win against the Browns. Really, really high scoring. Very surprising that it was high scoring. We all thought that it was going to be low scoring because of the Browns defense. Chargers defense was playing a little bit better as of late. So you thought they would both clash, maybe have a low scoring game. But the Chargers ended up coming out with the win. I forget what the score was, but it's like a lot to a lot. So it was crazy. But the Ravens and Chargers meet after going 4-1 in week 6. And I'm not going to go first. John, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first.
Okay, good.
I just wanted to say a couple stats. Obviously, Lamar, great win the other night on Monday. But about that win, I saw a stat that came on the screen. I was watching the post game, and I think Scott Van Pelt on ESPN. He's just awesome to watch. And a stat came up that Lamar Jackson is one of 3 quarterbacks to throw 300 passing yards, 4 passing touchdowns, and have 90% completion percentage in a single half in the last 40 years. And the other 2 are Drew Brees and Donovan McNabb. So I think it was obviously a great win. That second half was insane. There was also another stat that I saw that he has more total yards. He has 1,860 through 5 games, and that's more than 18 other teams combined. Not all of their yards combined, but each team's yards.
That's
so
crazy.
He's having a great season. But what this kind of reminds me of is Russell Wilson a couple of years ago. We would always talk about, it's all on Russ. Like if Russ can't perform, they're not going to really do great. I think there was one season that the Seahawks didn't get a rushing touchdown until like after week 10.
Oh yeah.
Everybody was like concerned that like Russ had to do everything. And I'm a little concerned with their top 2 running backs out, or top 3 even, and they had to pick up these other guys. Not that Latavius Murray is bad, because he's great, but it's a little concerning that, he has to do everything himself. So I'm going to pick the Chargers in this game. I know it's in Baltimore, but Herbert's just playing out of his mind right now. So I'm still going with the Chargers.
Oh yeah, another stat just said the Colts are now 120-1.
Yeah, I saw that.
They were up, they're 120-0 when leading by 19 or more. And
wow, it was like since 1984 was the stat. So
since back when they were in Baltimore.
Wow,
that's
so
crazy.
Lamar comes and breaks 40-year-old records.
Wow.
All right, Jonathan.
Yeah, I agree with John. I'm going with the Chargers. Justin Herbert is looking really great right now. And it's not just him. He has all the pieces he needs to be successful. He has all the pieces he needs to thrive. You have Eckler. We already know what he can do. You have Keenan Allen. You have Mike Williams. You have all these pieces for Justin Herbert to flourish. But also, he can use his legs when he needs to. He's smart. He can use his legs. And he keeps the defense honest. And so I think it's going to be tough for the Ravens to stop. Lamar had a really great game yesterday, but you can't really start slow against this Chargers team. They're not like the Colts. I mean, the Colts are not a bad team, but the Chargers are on another level this season, at least. And so I think that, the Chargers offense is going to be unbearable for the Baltimore defense. And the Chargers against the Cowboys, they held us to, I forgot how much points. I think they held us under 20 points or something like that. So I think that was impressive. So if you can hold the Cowboys to that, then I can only imagine what you can do to the Baltimore Ravens, who look, Lamar, sometimes he has these games where he has great passing yards, but at the end of the day, I would dare him to continue throwing, because eventually he's going to make a mistake. He's not a thrower. Let's just be honest, okay?
I think we should debate is who's better, Lamar or Dak?
Oh, come on.
Who's got the MVP?
Yeah, he does. He has more accolades.
Look, I'm not surprised Jonathan picked the Chargers. He basically has the freaking Chargers on his fantasy team.
Yeah,
he got everybody but Herbert.
Yeah,
I just gave him Mike Williams. Now he's got Eckler, Mike Williams, and Keenan Allen. He's gonna start all 3 of them.
Oh, Eckler's a great running back.
Oh, that's good timing, Caleb.
All right, I'm gonna cut it so when Caleb said it back 20 minutes ago, it's gonna make sense.
No, we'll leave that in there for the real one to listen to the whole thing.
If you're listening right now at this very moment, if you comment Eckler, I'll give you $1 in Venmo. I swear to God.
Whoa.
I swear to God, just comment Eckler. I will Venmo you $1. I swear on my
limit up to 25. People.
Huh?
You want to put a little cap on it, right?
Oh, you mean like if they keep commenting Eckler?
Yeah.
Oh no,
like,
if you
like total of maybe $10 is gonna go leave your hands. So let's just.
I don't think $1 will leave my Venmo, but if you comment Eckler, I'll give you $1. You mean the absolute world to me. and I'll love you forever. Halo, Ravens or Chargers?
Just soldier. I like both teams. Like, I'm just gonna go with the Ravens just to diversify. I don't know what you're picking, Jared, but just to mix it up a bit, because I would have gone. I really like the Chargers. I think Herbert's proven to be. I mean, since the week he came out against the Chiefs, he's shown that he can. And this season he's confirmed it that he can be an elite quarterback. Like, not just a good one, but like one of the top guys. And the Chargers were already contenders, so they're a great team. They're contenders this year, and they have great weapons around them, a good defense. But again, the Ravens, Lamar's having an incredible season, and they were still. I bank on again the momentum. So I'm comfortable picking either side, but I'll pick for the sake of diversifying. I'll say the Ravens because they're coming off that like a couple really close wins, and Lamar's playing like crazy. If you try to stop him, you open something else up. I mean, Andrews was great, Brown was killing it. I can go either way. You're looking at injuries maybe being a factor, but yeah, I'm going with the Ravens just because I'm hoping for a high-scoring, high-octane game.
Yeah, I hope it's going to be a very exciting game like the Browns. I'll go with a tie. No, I'm going with the Chargers. I think I like how the Ravens like to battle back and try and get a win, and maybe they start off slow in the second half to kind of kick it up a notch. But I think the Chargers, as of late, against the Chiefs, Raiders, Browns, they've learned how to just shut the door on teams in the fourth quarter to shut down that comeback. And I think that's what's going to happen here. I think it'll be back and forth for a while, and Chargers will kind of take a big enough lead to where the Ravens aren't going to be able to come back, and the Chargers will just shut the door on them and get the win. So I hope that the Chargers come out on top. One thing I just want to ask John for fantasy: should I start Lamar and Andrews after that 41-point game?
Yeah, you still have to start him. I mean, who's your other quarterback? It's Hurts, right?
Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, you can't start Hurts against the Bucs this week. You have to start Lamar, especially after that performance. The only thing is you have a decision because I know you have Kyle Pitts and you have Mark Andrews, and
I'm gonna start Pitts and Andrews.
Yeah, you could start both of them. Honestly,
Andrews at the flex.
Yeah, it's hard to sit them both.
League, yeah.
Get this. I had Knox, I had Mark Andrews, and I had Kyle Pitts. They were top 3 of the 4 tight ends this week.
Oh my god.
Unreal.
Well,
my tight ends great. My record not great. 1-4. So we're at the bottom of the division, but we have great tight ends. So that's something to look for.
Yeah.
All right, that does it for episode 6 of the Dorm Debate Podcast season 2. The season's just flying by. It's crazy that we're this far in. So if you're not following on TikTok and on Instagram, it is at Dorm Debate Podcast. Make sure if you're listening to this right now, you go hit subscribe right now. We're pushing for 1,000. We're going for the rush to 1,000 subscribers. Hopefully we can get there. We're almost there on Instagram, so go follow us on there. We want to remind you about John's live, his fantasy football live. As always, he goes live on Sundays at noon Eastern Standard Time. He'll be doing must-sits. He'll be doing weekly picks, weekly rankings, and answering all your questions on there. So go follow us on TikTok and make sure you're there on Sunday, noon Eastern Standard Time. And look out for John's podcast, his fantasy football podcast, where he does everything fantasy football. And that will be posted Saturday morning. So look out for that. I think I covered everything, and we will see you guys next week. And yeah, that's it. That's all I got.